I am having.
You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
That's right, folks, where reason meets reality. Welcome to the Capitalist Corner. I am your host, Mark Pellegrino, and the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and the vice chair of the American Capitalist Party, who has been kind enough to every day, the past 3 days, bring one of his 5 dogs up to visit us to start off the show. And I can't think of any better way to start off a show than a beautiful, beneficent, angelic dog like this. Can you please tell us the dog's name?
This is Luna. She is an Australian Shepherd mix, and this is the love bug of the bunch.
Just look at that.
She just wants to snuggle all the time. Okay, hon, here you go.
Oh, you can't put her down. I feel like you can't put a dog like that down. It's just
I know, but I have to because our guest is here, so we got to go over some preliminaries and then get the guest on because the guest is great today.
Let's go over the preliminaries. The usual preliminaries are Michael has 50,000 shows that he's doing that all need to be out there in the public eye. You all need to know what the heck is going on the Rational Egoist, on Everyday Ethics, and on our show on Saturdays. You need to know this stuff. So, Michael, tune them all into everything that's going on.
Right now on Rational Egoist, great episode with the economist, the director of the Soho Forum debates, Gene Epstein, explains why Adam Smith is not the father of capitalism, that he's more of a drunk uncle. This was a fantastic episode. Fantastic.
I can't wait to see that one.
Yeah, it's great. I got an episode coming out. It should be Monday about tribalism with a political economist. We'll discuss political tribalism. Persephone and I, every day at 2:30, we do Everyday Ethics on this very station. So I say it's channel. I know. I just wanted to aggravate Persephone. And of course, Mark, we got great stuff on the weekend. We got Self-Made Soul coming up this weekend. And then we got for the Capitalist Corner Patreon this weekend, we are going to be discussing Ayn Rand's fantastic essay, Our Cultural Value Deprivation. So everything's going great. We're great. We got a great guest today.
Yeah, I can't wait for all that stuff for the weekend. It's going to be a busy weekend, folks, so make sure to turn into our Patreon and become a part of it. You'll learn, I'll learn. It'll be a fantastic time. Today, our guest is Katherine Shelton. She is the daughter of a man named Jerry Lee Clark, whose case we've been following for quite some time. We're going to have her talk about the details of it, but I'll just give you a brief overview. In June of 2025, he was basically incarcerated by Alabama authorities or district authorities within Alabama for I guess harassment. But the case is a far more complicated than that. I want her to get into every detail of it so that you can understand the ins and outs of it and the injustice that this poor man has experienced at the hands of the Alabama court system. And we're hoping to give this some wider air so that more people can get on board and so that Jerry Lee Clark can get some justice and so that we can start redefining the First Amendment in some people's minds. Now, for some people, Michael, here's what they say. They say, well, the First Amendment doesn't mean you can't that there can't be responses to what you think. Now, of course, the responses to speech is other speech. The improper response to speech is violence, is vandalizing property and harassment. Those are the kind of things that the police are supposed to protect you from, right? So that your free speech rights are maintained. One of the consequences of free speech is not violence. One of the legitimate consequences of free speech is not violence. And this is what it seems Jerry Lee Clark had to experience and what we want to expose here today. So let's bring Katherine on so she can tell the story from the very beginning. If I'm leaving out lots of details and stuff, we want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Hey, Katherine, how are you?
Hey, fine. How are you?
Great to see you.
Good to see you too.
First of all, I'm very happy that you're now reunited with your dad. I'm unhappy about the fact that it had to be a plea deal because we think that it's very unjust that had to happen. But we also understand that if he had to stick it out for an appeal, it would have been a years-long process, and it's very possible he could have died in prison with the treatment that he was getting. So, can you talk to us from the very beginning? What happened? What caused this upset within the community and induced the police to do what they did?
My dad put up a political sign in his yard. It's on a private 3-acre lot. It's in unincorporated Shelby County, Alabama. And he placed a sign in his yard, and it said, "Not my president." And it had Trump's name, and it was crossed out with a red X. The community immediately, I don't think that it was up for a matter of days before we started seeing posts on social media. And, people were coming by, screaming out the window, screaming obscenities. And they were calling the police on my dad. At first, Helena PD was responding. And then after about 6 weeks, they said that they couldn't help anymore, that we were actually in Shelby County's jurisdiction. So they started responding. My parents were being harassed very badly. People were trespassing on the private property to deface and tear down the sign. And there was trash in the yard, glass across the driveways. My parents were doxxed online. They were posting pictures of the home, videos, and they posted the full address online, which I felt really put my parents in danger. I called not only the city of Helena, but Shelby County Sheriff's Office on multiple occasions to have something done about it. And we were told that my dad needed to take down the sign. And I told them that is my dad's First Amendment right. That is his freedom to speech. And they told me that they understood that, but that he was making a big problem for himself and they were tired of getting calls and that I needed to make him take down the sign. Well, Mark, my dad's a grown man and an opinionated one at that. So, I told him, I said, I'll talk to him, but I can't guarantee that I'll go anywhere. And my dad said, it's what I feel is right. It's my property that I've worked my whole life for. And that's how I feel. And I feel as though freedom of speech is very important, and I'm going to exercise that right. Well, after months of enduring all that harassment and hate, I was called by Shelby County Sheriff's Office stating they thought my dad was mentally ill due to him putting up the sign and the lengths that he was willing to go to keep the sign up. And I said, please do not do that at my parents' home. That will absolutely terrify my mother. Please don't do that. They came the next morning and they picked him up for an involuntary mental health hold with guns drawn, multiple officers. They used force. They transported him to the local hospital. It's called Shelby Baptist. It's in Alabaster, Alabama. They kept him for 1 week on an involuntary mental health hold, where the mental health judge of Shelby County stated that he was not a danger to himself or anyone else, and that he was to be released to his family. He was going to be in my custody. Shelby County Sheriff's Office went against their own judge's judgment, and they arrested my dad outside of that hospital on June 26th of 2025, where that led to a 6.5 month incarceration at the Shelby County Sheriff's Office. And his bond was placed at $403,000 cash only bond. You cannot use your property and you cannot use a bail bondsman.
Unbelievable. Now, when it's an involuntary incarceration for mental issues, what power does that give the county or the state over the individual? That because in the state of California, we can't involuntarily commit pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
Now, how does this occur in Alabama? By the way, we're posting a picture now of one of the pictures of the sign being defaced, and also your dad's response to attempt to protect the sign from being defaced by the people who are vandalizing the property. But go ahead and tell us how they were able to pull this off, and what did it mean when he's being involuntarily held under these circumstances? Can they force medication on him in that case?
They absolutely did force medication on him. He was evaluated at the hospital. They kept him. I requested that he be kept in the senior citizen ward of the mental health floor. I felt as though that was a lot safer for him since he is elderly. I did not want him to be hurt or mishandled in any type of way in the hospital. You know, they were very kind and very nice to him, which I was really appreciative for. I'm not exactly sure what led up to the legality of getting him on a mental health hold. I do know that his sister, which is estranged from our family, my dad barely speaks to her. He hasn't seen her in 15 years in person. That she called Shelby County and told them that she thought that my dad was mentally ill. They had had a conversation, you know, I believe 2 or 3 nights beforehand. My dad was just missing her and decided to call in and, you know, talk to her, which only happens every once in a while, every few years. And she is a big supporter of the current administration, and she is a big supporter of ICE. And my dad was trying to talk to her, and he just couldn't see how she would feel that way. He was trying to understand, but she was so set in her beliefs that my dad had told her, you know, I believe that this will be the last time that we speak. You know, I don't think that I want to continue this. I don't think that we're going to talk anymore after this. I cannot believe that after, you know, us growing up together, and a lot of her family is Hispanic. He said, I cannot believe that you feel that way, and we just have a difference of opinion. She took that information along with him telling her what he had done to the sign to protect, you know, his property and try to deter people, that she called, and somehow an estranged family member that, you know, he hasn't seen in 15 years was able to help condone the involuntary commitment.
So I know in California, they have a thing called 5150 where they can involuntarily commit somebody for 72 hours, but they can't force medication on them even that time. James Valiant has a question. James Valiant is a former prosecutor, objectivist, and he's sort of the legal counsel for the American Capitalist Party. Since there's only a 72 hold on people in California, he wants to know why a week. Why?
You know, I'm not exactly sure. It lasted for 6 days, and then we went to court. They originally ordered it for a 6-day hold, for court to be held on the 6th day. I was there on the first day of court, and she said, okay, well, we'll hold you for 6 days, and then we'll reconvene in court. I'm not exactly what entitles the 6 days versus 72 hours. But on that 6th day, you know, she said he can go home. You know, we'll reconvene in 6 months. He needs to go to mandated therapy and go to his, you know, appointments. And otherwise, we will reconvene in 6 months. And, you know, they went against her judgment and arrested him anyways.
So, this is terrible. So I want to get into that, but we have some more thoughts here. One by Alan Thomas, who you just did that. I just watched the program that you did with him. He says they forced him to waive his Miranda rights while on medications. Why a week, and how could they involuntarily commit him are pressing and pending questions. But James Valiant continues and says involuntary meds should make any statement inadmissible.
I agree wholeheartely. I do know that I do have the medical records from the stay at the hospital, and that they were giving him Depakote, they were giving him Halidol, and multiple other medications. And they did have him waive his Miranda rights once he got to the jail. It was very quickly within the first 48 hours that they went ahead and did that. And I feel as though he was still underneath the influence. And I don't feel as though that's legal or right.
I agree. Michael, you had a reaction to the Halidol and to the medications. It seemed that.
Well, it's just so people understand something. Depakote is an anticonvulsant that is given also to treat bipolar disorder. Haldol is an antipsychotic. It's in the phenaziethine family. These are older antipsychotics, so they have far more negative side effects. They were once described to me by a mental health professional as chemical handcuffs, or a chemical straitjacket. So this is not like you gave the guy 5 milligrams of Valium to calm down. This is stuff that absolutely incapacitates you.
He was suffering on himself.
Yeah,
it's like Thorazine, right, Michael? Where
it's in the same family. Mellaril, Thorazine, Haldol are all in the same family. Yes.
Okay, so we think this was induced by the sister who has a beef with him on some level, and that's how they were able to get the commitment. He's involuntarily drugged, waives his rights while potentially under the influence of these old style antipsychotics, and then gets incarcerated again, even though he's supposed to be remanded to you. So what happens after this now? Now this is just the beginning of hell, but so let's go deeper into the rungs of hell here. So what happens after he's incarcerated?
Well, hold on 1 second, Mark. Can you share the episode?
I did share it. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So he was kept at the Shelby County Jail, and he has been there since. He was released last Monday on January 5th. My dad normally weighs about 215 pounds. He wears like a 40 to 42 in the waist, depending on what it is. My dad is now in a 32 in the waist. They are extremely baggy. While in custody, he made it right below 160 pounds. I feel as though he was not only malnourished. I know that he fell several times while he was there. His fingernails were blue to indicate hypoxia. He has very severe heart issues. He had a AAA 2.5 years ago and was airlifted to the main UAB hospital in Birmingham. His health is extremely poor. My dad has spent his entire life being a painter right here in Birmingham, Alabama, in his business. He's a faux painter and has done so many beautiful, large $1 million homes right here. And he cannot close his hands.
I saw that video.
Yeah, one side of his body is extremely weak. He cannot get on and off his shirt or jacket by himself. He cannot open a ketchup packet. He cannot make a fist. He's in severe pain.
Now you think he may have had a stroke while he was in custody, right?
I do believe that he had a stroke or something of that sort. Even the first lawyer had notated that he believed that he had occurred a stroke or something like that. Half his face was drooping and it did not move when he spoke. And his words were extremely slurred. And he started experiencing weakness on one side of his body.
Was that while he was under the influence of the medication?
So by my memory, he was incarcerated from June 26th, and we did not get visitation for a few weeks. But after a few weeks, the first time that I saw my dad, I said, "Daddy, like, do you feel bad? Has your chest been hurting? Half of your face kind of looks droopy." And he said he wasn't feeling good at all. And he seemed very out of it. I know that they had been giving him medication. I was calling daily because I didn't get phone calls with my dad. He called as soon as he got there. And after that, I just didn't hear from him anymore. They had put him in the medical ward, which they do not get phone calls. There are no receivers on the walls. They said they do that due to, trying to make sure to where nobody can harm themselves. So I wasn't hearing from him. So I would call up to the jail and, state my name, that I just was calling to check on my dad, that I hadn't heard from him. And they several times said that he was on suicide watch and that they had him heavily medicated. My dad now says that he was never suicidal and that he was never aggressive. So I kind of think that they kept him doped up for the first few weeks.
Mike, does any of this sound like a normal? Does any of this sound normal procedural stuff to prevent family members from seeing somebody who's incarcerated?
Yeah, that sounds normal. The only thing that really stands out to me as abnormal is the involuntary giving of medication. If it's done in a prison setting, I don't know the rules if it's a mental health hold in a psychiatric hospital, But in prison or in jail, I've never heard. I mean, I shouldn't say I've never heard it. I've heard it claimed, but I know that it's there. It's not something that's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
But as far as rules different from state to state, but in Connecticut, when you first get admitted into the prison system or a jail, you have to fill out the visitors that you want on your list. And what they do is they then mail these people visiting forms that the people fill out and send back. And then they get, they have to do background checks, that sort of thing. And then they will allow them into the prison. But in Connecticut, they would give you one sort of complimentary, I guess, for lack of a better word, visit. Maybe it's called an emergency visit. I don't know. I mean, you have to understand too, it's a long time since I was admitted into the prison system, but that doesn't mean that that's that way everywhere. So it's very possible that they just don't allow visitors until everybody's on an approved visiting list. And, you're talking about a government agency doing background checks. Thousands and thousands of people are processed in and out of the system. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that it would take that long.
So it's a maximum security jail. There are no in-person visits at all at Shelby County. No one gets to see you in person. You're not between a piece of glass. They offer video visitation. Wow. I drive 50 minutes to the jail and sign on the little kiosk, which looks like an ATM screen. And while he's in the back, he's also on a little kiosk on a little screen. And that's how you get to talk. They do that for safety precautions. It's where you can't see anyone in person. They don't have to transport them to another area of the jail. General population, they get to make phone calls, but not medical.
What was their justification for putting him in a maximum security facility like this, given his age, his infirmity, and frankly, what they claimed he did? It just doesn't seem to warrant this at all.
At all. I was not given any type of an explanation. I was just told that Shelby County made the charges and that's where everyone goes. I said, if this is truly a mental health issue, which, he's been seen by many mental health professionals now, including a private pay hired one that we got done right before the plea deal was complete. And I said, if it truly is about mental health, there are multiple senior citizen mental health institutions within an hour of our home that they could have transported him to. I also asked the lawyer, can we get his case moved to Jefferson County or a neighboring county? And I was told that no, Shelby County made the charges, that he will remain there. There were no options.
This just sounds like a horrible nightmare. Alan, Michael, I just want you to know that Alan sent me some of his.
I already sent them to Persephone. I'm already on it, bro.
We're gonna be posting some of his work up there for everybody to see. Great work, by the way.
Thank you. He's very skilled.
Very skilled, and quite possibly disabled, permanently and unable to work. I imagine for the rest of his life, given the experiences that he had. So, was there physical abuse that was going on within the prison itself? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about that? By the way, thank you, Greg Lewis, for the $1.99 sticker, super sticker.
From what my dad told me, that he's never been in trouble before. He's never been incarcerated, so he doesn't have anything to compare it to. He did say that they were rough with him. But he said, I guess that's my own fault for being there. I guess it just kind of comes par for the course. I do know that there were several times where I visited him where he said that he had fallen and showed me some bruises. But I saw him other times where his nose was completely busted open. His eyes were blacked. I believe nobody would share with me why he was in medical, even though I'm his power of attorney and medical power of attorney. But I do know, I truly feel like he was kept in medical to protect him. He could have never survived getting hurt, by someone much younger and stronger than him. He's so frail and little right now. I don't think that he could have handled it.
Do you think somebody in the prison population was predating him or just attacking him?
I'm not sure. Again, they won't tell me any of that. And my dad's in a state right now where he's so uncomfortable and in so much pain and just so thankful to be home. He can only sit up and speak for a few minutes at a time. So like I've asked him some questions, but I don't want to hammer it right now. I think that it's taking an incredible amount of energy for him to just sit up, eat, and kind of be present for short periods.
I want to clarify something very quickly. So Jim Valiant asked in the chat what exactly was Mr. Clark charged with.
I was going to go there. Good. I'm glad.
Okay, well, but so Alan said harassment, reckless endangerment, possession, manufacture, and transport of biological and bacteriological weapons. When I read that from Alan, it struck me as that there's something missing there, and I was correct. So I looked it up, and he was charged with unlawful manufacturing of a destructive device, possession of a destructive device, possession of a destructive device with intent to cause injury, 2 counts of harassment, and 1 with reckless endangerment. Now, here's the thing. Initially, he was charged with 2 counts of possession or transportation of a biological weapon, as Alan said. But the chief deputy district attorney later clarified the allegation was related to the destructive device aspect. If I'm remembering correctly from reading the law, because I read this at the beginning of this, that's included. So there's one charge. It's possession of a destructive device and or biological weapon. So they all get put into the same charge. Does that sound familiar to you, Catherine?
So the way that it was listed on Shelby County's website and in all the news stories that happened when he was arrested is it was 2 counts of explosives charges for manufacturing, distribution, transport, and possession. And it was 1 bacteriological or biological weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah, but that's encompassed in the same charge, I believe.
Now they
got rid of that altogether. Now they've dropped
biochemical charge. They removed 1 of the explosives charges, and then they amended the 3rd charge to attempted possession and manufacturing of an explosive device.
I just really want people to understand that there was never any actual allegation that he had biological and chemical weapons or anything like that. That's just, I think, in the statute. They didn't actually think he had, say, anthrax or anything like that, right?
No, they were saying that, like even the sheriff's department had said in the initial beginning, like, we think that it's an incendiary device that could be used as a bioweapon. And then Lieutenant Debbie Sumrall of the Shelby County Sheriff's Office made a statement saying what we thought to be incendiary devices were all deemed safe and cleared, that there was no harm to the community, there was no danger or threat to the community to be imposed. And the bioweapon charge is something that I get a lot of comments about and a lot of messages about, people saying that he deserved to be in jail and die there. If they truly thought it was a bioweapon or something like that, my question is, why didn't they evacuate a single home around us or the neighborhood across the street with hundreds of homes? But
I heard also
it stuck.
I heard also that they thought there was some kind of artillery device that was hooked up to a remote primer that he could just blow up. So there's clearly a lot of histrionic language going on around this. But it being part of the statute, unfortunately, means it's being put in there irrespective of whether it actually happened or not. Thank you, Gary Menard, for the $3.99 super sticker. So James Valiant wants to know what was the offered plea deal?
So with his bond being $403,000 cash only, the plea deal ended up being, you can leave here for $0.00 if you plead guilty to attempted possession or manufacturing of an explosive, and if you plead guilty to reckless endangerment and harassment. You can leave and have 60 months of supervised state probation.
So what were the harassment charges based on?
So Helena PD which we are not in their jurisdiction. They cannot respond even in an event of an emergency. They self-admittedly said it in the articles of discovery that they had been coming by here for weeks, late at night, to scope out the property. They were slow rolling past the property and stopping in the road, which is 45 miles an hour, and it's in a curve. They were shining bright lights throughout the yard and into the home. This had gone on.
Is that what we have a picture of that? Is that the one with the silver car that's passing by with the bright light?
That's just one of the gentlemen in the community that are men in the community that continued to harass us even after my dad was incarcerated and I painted the sign white. That's a guy who kept on coming by and videotaping us and screaming out the window.
All right. I want to interrupt real quickly because I really want to nail this thing. This is very important because when people hear biological weapon, they think terrorism.
Yes.
This is what the actual statute says. I've been reading ChatGPT as I'm listening here. It shall be unlawful for any person to possess, manufacture, transport, or distribute a destructive device or bacteriological or biological weapon. So the statute includes both. So when you violate the statute, they would say you've been charged with possession of a destructive device or biological weapon. It doesn't mean that you've had that weapon or that they've ever thought you have that weapon. To me, that's very sloppy language for a statute to include. Yeah. But it doesn't surprise me that that's what they do.
Yeah. My dad walked outside after they had been shining the lights and he had seen it from inside the home. He shined a blue laser pointer at the police vehicle. And again, they were out of jurisdiction, but he shined it at them, not only to let them know of his presence, but for his protection. Had he, went up to the vehicle and approached the vehicle, he probably would have been hurt badly. They probably wouldn't have wanted him coming up to their vehicle at, in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. So after he shined the blue laser pointer at the stopped police vehicle, he called Helena PD and told them that they needed to leave his house and that if they wanted to keep coming, by, that it was going to be a problem. And due to the fact that he cursed, they called that harassment and gave him 2 harassment charges. Reckless endangerment was for shining a blue laser pointer at the police vehicle. He said that it illuminated the cab of his vehicle. If he was going 45 miles an hour, he wouldn't have seen anything, and my dad wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, so it's a response to clear harassment on the part of this particular police department. So continue to tell us what happened. So he's incarcerated. He's not given proper treatment. And tell us a little bit further what you were doing at this time to try to get him out. You started a GoFundMe page. We became aware of this issue, and we also tried to hop on the bandwagon to help you out too, and to publicize this as much as possible, hoping that giving it a lot more oxygen would expose these people and help your dad out. So tell us what happened during this time.
I started making videos. I had spoke out about it on Facebook a few times, and I wasn't really getting any kind of a response. I am not a TikToker or a video maker, but I decided to take up the profession. And I started making videos on TikTok, and finally they were getting some coverage. Roy Johnson with AL.com finally did a story on it, and it gave me something to send out to people because I had sent thousands of messages to random people, please help me. And it finally gave me something to send them with some meat to it, to where, I could get some light to the story. And since then, a lot of creators have made videos about my dad, and my videos have continued to get shared. What in Clay Nation came to our house from Georgia and did an interview with us. And then Jason Will over at Raised Red Living Blue, we started doing a podcast with him, and I was sent a message from Ariana, and she got me in touch with Alan Thomas. So I was super, super appreciative to hear that and for that help. And really, it's just getting the word out. Even though my dad has been released, this was an injustice, and his First Amendment rights and freedom of speech were trampled on, and his property rights. And I think that it's something that everyone should know. And I think it's time to speak up about it.
And his health has been permanently affected, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future, given the way he was treated and neglected during this time. Michael, I mean, you know about this. Now that he's taken the plea deal, there's no room for appeal. I mean, what is it that anybody can do? And James, this is a question for you, since you're in the chat. You're more than welcome, of course, to come on if you want. What is it that we can do as citizens to help get justice for Jared?
Okay. I want to back up a little bit.
Sure.
Because the organizations wouldn't help you, like the ACLU. They don't help unless it's in the appellate process, right? Now, a lot of people think very wrongly, well, why would the guy plead guilty if he was innocent? Why would he do that? Or they say things like, well, you should have just went to trial and then you could have got the help. The problem with this line of reasoning is if you go to trial and lose, you will get your ass handed right to you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter if a judge once told me when I refused to plead guilty to an array of charges, because I knew that if I went to trial, or I had a very good sense that I would have been acquitted of most of the charges. The judge actually told me, if you're acquitted of all these charges and get found guilty of one, I'm smoking you. So it doesn't matter. When in my actual case that I went to trial for, I was initially offered 18 years, right, to plead guilty to certain things. I went to trial, was acquitted of the most serious charges, and they still gave me 9 more years than they had offered at the time of the plea. So if your father goes to trial, and how old is your dad?
He's 66.
You know, you're talking about a 66-year-old guy who's not in good health. If he goes to trial and loses, and they give him the max, could be 5-10 years. I don't know, because I don't know what he would have been found guilty of, what they are. But the point is, it turns into a death sentence.
Yes.
And it's real easy for people that are on the outside to say, oh, fight the good fight. But when you're in that cage and it's your health that's deteriorating and it's your family that you're missing, you just want out.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, the fact that your father did that, and I mean, I don't blame him at all, but that does take away some of the avenues that he had to fight this.
It does. We were told, so his trial was scheduled for August of 2026. Number one, I don't think my dad would have made it to August.
Yeah.
If I'm being completely honest with you. And when I went to go visit him, and, I just left the lawyer's office and I went to go speak with him, he said, baby, if you tell me to stay, I will stay. I will try my best. He said, but I have absolutely no fight left in me, and I don't know how much longer I can make it. And in that moment, even though I absolutely want to fight the good fight, I would rather have my dad home with my mom and home to see his grandchildren. And, I would love for justice to happen legally, but at the same time, I'd rather have my dad. I will spend the rest of my life winching about this and advocating for him. And my dad could not have survived. Also, the lawyer had told us when Alan and I went to go visit him, he said, trial can easily get pushed out by a year or 2. And the Shelby County Sheriff's Office had told me the day after he was arrested, they said, each charge carries 20 years to life. Like, he'll die here. He'll spend the rest of his life here. He's not getting out. I'd rather have my dad at home and me be able to care for him for the rest of his life and him be here than him die there trying to fight the good fight, because he would have never made it.
Absolutely. There's a little conversation going on in the chat that I want to make you aware of, Catherine. So James Valiant says, is there a plan to file a civil right lawsuit? Section 1983 of the Civil Rights Act seems appropriate. It was a coerced plea. Now, Alan Thomas answers this. The judge made sure sentencing and accepting the plea that all avenues for appeal were shut down. Jim, he was very, very aware of that. So apparently this is true. But then Jim says in response, the original arrest and charge poisoned any plea.
So it's inaccurate. to say that all avenue of appeals are exhausted because it was a plea. You could file the case. The court case is Hill v. Lockhart, and it has to do with ineffective assistance of counsel when in regards to a plea. So it used to be there was the controlling case was Strickland v. Washington, that you had to have effective counsel when losing trial. But then Hill v. Lockhart said, no, even if it's during a plea, if you've had ineffective assistance of counsel, you can file. Now, your father's out, but he still can contest this. And so it's a very difficult thing to prove, because you have to prove that but for your attorney's ineffectiveness, the outcome would have been different. Now, Jim says the original arrest and charge poisoned any plea. Assuming Jim's correct on this, then the argument would be that the lawyer should have known this and should have fought this from the outset. So you might want to look into that. But Hill v. Lockhart is the case. I just sent Alan Thomas an abundance of websites for organizations that fight the idea that going to trial gives excessive sentencing. So one of those organizations may be interested in it as well.
Okay, we're down. We're down for anything at this point. I'm willing to fight the good fight for my dad. This was not okay in any way, shape, or form. Our first lawyer, they're supposed to be very big here in Birmingham for criminal charges. And after months, nothing had really happened at all. And I received a copy of a text message that he had sent someone saying that it was a dismal case and that that there was no hope for it or anything like that. And so once I, canceled his services and got a new lawyer, I'm really surprised that the lawyer that was arranged the plea deal was able to, when everyone else was being blocked from getting anywhere with it. And they did make sure that in the plea agreement, the way that they stated it, because I had a lawyer look it over, they made sure to cover themselves, the public defenders, any of the judges, the DA's office, any of the law enforcement included. They really tried to cover their tail on this, because I think they know they messed up big time.
They're going to do that. So when you plead guilty to a crime, they ask you an abundance of questions. Some of them where they know goddamn well you're lying. Like, have you been promised anything in order to take this plea? Well, yes, I have. But I've been promised a specific sentence. So they do that to cover their ass. It's true, but it's not preemptive, because to ask your father, are you happy with counsel? You're asking a person that by definition you're saying doesn't fully understand the law. That's why he has an attorney to begin with. So to say, well, that he agreed that the lawyer did a good job and understood all the applicable laws is ridiculous.
It's like asking a starving person, are you happy with your meal?
Yes. Alan, I just sent you also the case Hill v. Lockhart that's controlling in this situation, and I'm going to get Jim Valiant's email and send it to you as well.
Good. We got James looking at this now. He's a great legal mind. I'm sure he's going to come up with some interesting things for you to think about, Catherine. And this is going to continue to be on our radar as well. We'll continue to be your advocates and keep this in the public space. I have a rather large platform. Not a lot of my fans are politically oriented, but at least it gets out there to a large group of people, larger than we would normally be. And so hopefully that can keep everybody aware of this until we actually get Jerry some form of justice, because this is just unconscionable. We've been a witness to, we've been talking about this on the show for quite a while, how the police has gone from protect and serve to harassment of various neighborhoods. This is what ICE is doing in Minnesota. They're not protecting and serving the community. They are actually outright harassing people, detaining them unlawfully, and getting immunity from the federal government for this kind of thing, and incentivizing this kind of behavior. And certainly the First Amendment doesn't mean that other people have a right to act violently against you for your speech. Free speech means that one person can speak and your answer to them is also speech. It is not physical violence.
Yes.
The people the police should have been protecting you from were the community that was harassing you, defacing your property, and those are the people that should be experiencing jail sentences, not your father. So we're hoping that we can get this to get some semblance of justice for you and for the time that your father is here. Michael, do you have something to say? You look like
Mark, there's a very good attorney here in Connecticut. Unfortunately, I hate his guts, and I told him so to his face. So I'm probably not the best guy to to contact him. Nevertheless, Mark, Carlos, he was Carlos's attorney.
Yeah.
And he was also involved in getting Carlos with the HBO documentary. So we could, if you want to go through Carlos, maybe talk to the guy. I don't know if he could even handle a case in Alabama, but he is a very left-wing agitator for prisoners' rights, for this type of stuff. Exactly.
Okay.
So I can give you his name directly, but if you want to go through Carlos, you go through Carlos, whatever. I would do it, but the last time I saw the guy, he tried to shake my hand, and I told him I would rather not. And he said, "Why not?" And I basically told him because he was a scumbag. So me reaching out probably won't have the intended result. Still a great lawyer.
You should say his name right now too, so she has it just in case Carlos and I can't connect.
Okay, his name it's Alex Taubes, Taubes. I have his phone number. I'll get it to Alan as well. He's out of now. He's probably going to hear that I'm on the TV talking about how he's a scumbag. So thanks for that, Mark. But no, let me just explain why what happened here.
Yes, please do, because this isn't the selling point so far.
No. So, I, am big into the fact that you can see my book, Down the Rabbit Hole, How the Culture of Corrections Encourages Crime, a severe critic of the prison system. So, when I was still in prison, they started giving commutations, basically just releasing people from prison, murderers and whatnot, which I'm not necessarily opposed to if the person can be proven to have rehabilitated. The problem is nobody in prison knew what the criteria were in order to get out. Also, in prison, the rules are enforced haphazardly. So the fact that someone's ticket free isn't necessarily evidence. And the programming is garbage. So you end up with a situation where people are getting commutations that don't deserve them, and people that deserve them are not getting them. So they had a big hearing before the Connecticut State Legislature, and I went and testified that they should pause commutations until they can get them right, as opposed to just, because it was an injustice when you're releasing people who don't deserve it. Not all of them, but some of them, but yet you're keeping people in who deserve a second chance. So I testified for that. And I kind of made a fool out of the woman that questioned me because, well, whatever, that's not neither here nor there. But afterwards, this attorney was very upset with me. Basically, I was a sellout. I'm a prisoner who got a break and I'm not understanding and all that, and fuck me, and I'm a jerk and everything else, So after he had done that, and then subsequently proceeded, we had a falling out on social media. When I saw him in person, I said, you want to shake my hand now after what you said to me? You're crazy. I'm not shaking your hand. So that was the falling out. But if you notice, the falling out was because he wants inmates out of prison. So he's fighting very, very hard for prisoners. And he's good at it. He gets a lot of them out.
Yeah, so James, I would probably be able to answer this, whether he would have jurisdiction over there in Alabama. I'm not sure that he would, but he could probably certainly suggest counsel for you to pick up this case and carry it further to get some form of justice for your father and for your family. Is there anything else you'd like to say? I mean, how's your dad doing now? Can you give us your details, the way that we can contact you or pay attention to you on social media, call more attention to you on social media? How can we see you on social media and stuff?
So I do have a Facebook page. It's underneath Katherine Shelton, and my TikTok is K Shelton, SHELTON 2025. And I have a lot of videos on there. I'm also going to be on the Raised Red Living Blue podcast. It's called The Silencing of Jerry Lee Clark, Alabama Injustice.
Great. So go ahead.
My dad, I've never seen him like this. My dad is Superman. He has been my whole entire life. Went to work, helped in the kitchen, took care of my mom and his family, worked out in the yard, did anything he could to make us have a better life and keep us comfortable and taken care of. He's very weak. He's extremely frail. We are very happy to have him home. He has enjoyed several cups of coffee with my mom. And he can sit up for a little while, and interact for a little bit, and then he has to lay back down. Mm. He spent 23 and a half hours a day on his back on a cot. And for the first long time, he didn't have a cot. He was sleeping on the concrete floor. His back has broadened out wider than I've ever seen it. And he's just lost so much weight. Mm. So I'm just trying my best, and so is my mom, just to nurse him back to health. I've never seen him so weak and so tired. And, my job right now is just to make him feel better.
Well, you're awesome, and we wish your dad the best. Is the GoFundMe page still active? I don't think it is, right?
It is.
Oh, it is? Okay, good. So
yeah,
the GoFundMe
absolutely.
page is still active, and so folks, if you can tune into that and donate, that would be fantastic. At least share it if you can. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody helping us.
Yes, all freedom-loving people out there who are finding themselves disgusted by what seem to be police state tactics now, and a definite closing down of political speech and opposition and dissent. Please donate to the GoFundMe, and let's help people who are out there on the front lines dissenting and actually fighting against what we are perceiving as a coming tyranny. So you guys are on the right side of this fight, and we're with you. We're behind you, and we will do everything in our power to help push this thing forward so that you guys get some justice. And Katherine, you're welcome on the show anytime. It was great seeing you.
Did everybody blink out or just me?
You did. I think fine, but you all of a sudden popped up, so I think you glitched. All
right, Mark. I'm also sending you. I just sent you the information for that lawyer. I'm also going to send you information from an award-winning journalist that I'm friends with. So this woman is good. You can tell her I sent you, and that will be great. Her name is Chandra Bazelko, and I'll send it to you right now, Mark.
Okay, great. So we're going to do everything in our power, Katherine, to help you out and to make this public. And as I said before, get justice for you guys. As James Valiant says in the conversation here, this is horrific. It's something that no person should have to go through. The Constitution is meant to protect the minority. The smallest minority of all is the individual. That's why we have a thing called individual rights in this country, or had them, folks. And that's what a capitalist society is about. Protecting the individual's right to his life, the pursuit of his own happiness, and to the inviolability of his property. And this is what we are standing for on principle for Jerry and Katherine. So please help us stand on principle and stand against the establishment, which at the moment seems to be heading in the exact wrong direction. So, Michael, that's sort of my capitalist thought for the day. Did you want to have a question? Did you want to do a question, or did you want to?
This is a tough one because usually we have we're lighthearted over here, but this is a serious topic.
Should we avoid the question for today?
No, I think I'm gonna make it a serious question.
Okay.
And the serious question is this: do you believe that people who exercise their right to go to trial should be punished for doing so in the form of a longer sentence than they otherwise would have gotten? Please answer that question.
That's a great question. That's a great question. I think this has been a very thought-provoking conversation. For me, not knowing all that's at risk, Michael, when you go to a trial and all of the things that they pile on you and all the years, potential years that are added to your life before you can have an appeal process. For a man who is in his mid 60s, who is in frail health, that is a death sentence, and that's something for people to really remember. Katherine, you're welcome on our show anytime. We wish you the best. We're going to do our best to fight for you. Everybody else, we're going to be here the same bat time, same bat channel on Monday. So please, you have the whole weekend to sort out your premises. If you have statism in you, get it out of you. If you think Trump is a capitalist, please forget that nonsense and come over to the rational side, the classical liberal side. You got a few days to sort that stuff out. Until that time, my friends, peace.